Have you ever thought you had everything figured out? That the people you surrounded yourself with were loyal, trustworthy, and had your best interests at heart? I used to think that way too. Until one day, everything I believed in came crashing down. My name is Jason. And this is the story of how I learned that betrayal doesn't just come from enemies, it comes from the people you love the most. What happened to me wasn't just a simple act of dishonesty. It was a well-orchestrated deception that left me questioning everything I ever knew about loyalty, trust, and justice. But let me start from the beginning. Success was never handed to me on a silver platter. I had to fight for it, claw my way up from the bottom. Growing up in a modest household, my parents did their best. But financial struggles were always present. Seeing them work tirelessly, I vowed that I would build a future where I never had to worry about money again. Determination became my fuel. I excelled in school, devoured books on entrepreneurship, and spent countless sleepless nights learning to code. By the time I graduated college, I had already developed software projects that gained traction. It wasn't long before I landed a lucrative job in tech, one that paid more than I ever imagined. But I wasn't satisfied with just a steady paycheck. I wanted more: financial freedom, the ability to live on my own terms. So, I took a risk and started my own software firm. It wasn't easy. But after years of hard work, I built something remarkable. My company thrived, and by my late 20s, I had achieved the life I had always dreamed of. With success came luxury. I could afford the things I once only fantasized about: high-end cars, a penthouse in the city, first-class flights to exotic destinations. I surrounded myself with other successful people, learned from the best, and continuously pushed my limits. But amid all my achievements, my greatest prize was Olivia. When I met Olivia, she was working part-time as a fitness coach while struggling to make ends meet. She had ambition, but no clear direction. I saw potential in her, a fire waiting to be ignited. Encouraging her to take social media seriously, I guided her in growing her presence. I helped her secure sponsorships, connected her with people in the industry, and in a matter of months, she became a rising fitness influencer. As her fame grew, so did our bond. We complemented each other. Olivia brought energy and charisma, while I provided strategy and stability. Our love felt genuine, like something out of a fairy tale. To the outside world, we were a power couple, successful, good-looking, and deeply in love. We traveled together, attended exclusive events, and lived a lifestyle others envied. I made sure Olivia never had to worry about money again. She moved into my penthouse, had everything she desired, and thrived in an environment where she could focus on her passion without any stress. Then there were my childhood best friends, Brandon and Tyler. We had been inseparable since high school. Three misfits trying to carve out a future for ourselves. In our teenage years, we dreamed big, talking about businesses we would start, wealth we would accumulate, and a life free of limitations. But while I pursued tech and innovation, they remained loyal to their first love, the food business. After a series of failed ventures, they finally managed to run a small but stable restaurant. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Despite our different paths, I never distanced myself from them. Brandon and Tyler were still my brothers. Whenever I had free time, I'd visit their place, help with ideas for expansion, and even offered financial backing. But they always refused my help, insisting they wanted to make it on their own. I respected that. But I could sense the tension building beneath their words. As my company flourished, their business remained stagnant. While I dined in Michelin-starred restaurants, they were sweating in the back of a kitchen. They never said it outright, but I could feel it, resentment creeping into our friendship. Still, I chose to ignore it. I convinced myself that nothing had changed. We had years of history together, and that bond couldn't be broken. But deep down, a part of me sensed that they no longer saw me as the same person. Olivia, on the other hand, loved their presence. She found their crude humor entertaining, enjoyed their relaxed, carefree personalities. While I was always thinking about the future, planning my next move, Brandon and Tyler lived in the moment. Olivia was drawn to that, perhaps too much. Looking back, the warning signs were there. The stolen glances. The inside jokes I wasn't a part of, the way Olivia's laughter was just a little louder when they were around. But I was blind, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. I had built a life that felt too perfect, too solid to be shaken. I had no idea that the storm was already forming, waiting to strike at the foundation I had worked so hard to build. Looking back, should have noticed the signs earlier. They weren't sudden or drastic, but rather a slow, creeping shift in behavior, subtle enough to be ignored, yet persistent enough to linger in the back of my mind. It started small. Olivia's phone, once casually left on the kitchen counter, was now always face down. She'd silence notifications whenever I was around. Spam emails, she'd say with a dismissive laugh. I shrugged it off, convincing myself it was nothing. Her schedule became unpredictable. Once, we had routine evenings together, dinners, movie nights, quiet moments. But suddenly, she was always busy. Networking events, last-minute meetings, brand collaborations. At first, I admired her ambition. But then, the late nights grew more frequent, her explanations more vague. One evening, she came home well past midnight, barefoot, heels in hand. A faint smell of expensive cologne clung to her. Not hers. Not mine. When I asked about her night, she smiled. Just a business dinner. We stopped by a lounge after. Nothing serious. I wanted to believe her. So, I did. Then came Brandon and Tyler. They had always been my closest friends, but something about their interactions with Olivia started to feel different. She laughed more with them, leaned in a little closer, shared looks that lasted a second too long. Maybe it was my imagination, or maybe I was blind to what was right in front of me. Then, Mr. Harris, my neighbor, gave me the final push toward reality. You've had visitors while you're out, he mentioned one afternoon. That black SUV, it's been parked outside your place more than once. My stomach clenched. Who was in it? Your friend Brandon, I think. And another guy. Brandon? At my house? When I wasn't there? Olivia had never mentioned it. Doubt seeped in like poison. My mind raced through every moment I had ignored, every gut feeling I had dismissed. The logical part of me still clung to reason, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. And I needed to find out exactly what it was. The storm had begun. Doubt had taken root in my mind, and no matter how much I tried to push it away, it refused to leave. The seed had been planted, and now it was growing, twisting its way through every interaction. Every conversation, every seemingly insignificant detail I had once ignored. I needed answers. I needed proof. At first, I tried to be subtle. I started paying closer attention to Olivia's routine. Noting the times she left and returned, the way she carried herself when she walked through the door. I observed how often she checked her phone. How quickly she responded to messages when she thought I wasn't looking. Then, one evening, an opportunity presented itself. Olivia had left for another late-night meeting. And I decided to check her phone. It was locked, of course. That wasn't unusual. But what was unusual was that she had changed her passcode. She had never done that before. A cold sensation crawled down my spine. Was I losing my mind, or was she actively trying to hide something from me? I decided I needed something more than just suspicion, I needed hard evidence. That's when I turned to technology. I purchased a small set of discrete security cameras, the kind that could be hidden in plain sight. One in the living room, another in the kitchen. And one near the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I debated whether to install one in the bedroom, but at the time, I told myself that was excessive. After all, I wasn't even sure I wanted to see what I feared most. The first few days, nothing happened. Everything seemed normal, routine. Olivia moved through the house with ease, chatting on the phone. Scrolling through her social media, stretching in the living room before bed. It was almost enough to make me second-guess myself. Almost. Then, late one evening, I received a call from Mr. Harris. "Jason, that black SUV was parked outside your house again today," he said. They were inside for a while. I swallowed hard. "Did you see who it was?" "I only saw them from a distance. But it looked like Brandon and another guy. They left right before you got home." A cold realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They were inside my house while I was gone. And Olivia hadn't mentioned a word about it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, imagining all the possibilities, all the betrayals that could be unfolding right under my nose. The next morning, I reviewed the security footage from the previous day. At first, everything appeared normal. Olivia paced around the house, working on her laptop, sipping coffee. Then, at precisely 2:14 p.m., the front door opened. Brandon walked in, followed closely by Tyler. Olivia greeted them warmly. Too warmly. I watched as they sat down on the couch, laughing. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see it, the familiarity, the ease, the way she leaned into Brandon's shoulder for just a second too long. My jaw clenched as I continued watching. Then Olivia stood up, took Brandon's hand, and led him toward the hallway. My stomach twisted as Tyler followed without hesitation. My pulse pounded in my ears. But then, something that made my stomach churn happened. The three of them entered the bedroom, and the door shut behind them. I stared at the screen, my mind screaming at me to do something. But I had no way of knowing what was happening beyond that door. The camera in the hallway only showed the closed door, sealing away the truth from me. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, at exactly 2:53 p.m., Olivia stepped out first, adjusting her hair. Brandon followed shortly after, looking as composed as ever. Tyler walked out last, stretching his arms like he had just woken up from a nap. None of them seemed hurried. None of them looked guilty. They stayed for another 10 minutes before finally leaving. I shut the laptop. My hands trembling. My mind was racing, creating scenarios, but I didn't have proof, just a terrible, gut-wrenching feeling that something was deeply wrong. That night, Olivia came home, acting as if nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek, asked me about my day, and curled up next to me as if everything was normal. I almost confronted her. Almost let my anger boil over. But I held back. If I was going to uncover the truth, I needed proof. And so, I made a decision. I would install a final camera. This time, in the bedroom. The next time they came over, I would see everything. The decision was made. The uncertainty was eating me alive, and I couldn't bear another day of wondering what was happening behind that closed door. If they thought they could keep their secrets hidden from me, they were wrong. The next day, while Olivia was out, I installed the final camera, the one in the bedroom. Disguised as a simple decorative object, it blended seamlessly into the surroundings, ensuring that nothing would go unnoticed. I spent that night restless, waiting. If my suspicions were correct, I wouldn't have to wait long. Sure enough, the following afternoon, my phone sent me a motion detection alert. My heart pounded as I opened the security app, hands shaking as the footage started playing. At exactly 2:12 p.m., Olivia opened the front door. Brandon and Tyler stepped inside, greeted with her warmest smile. They laughed, exchanged casual words, then moved effortlessly toward the living room. I fast-forwarded through the small talk. I had already seen enough of their familiarity to know what was coming next. Then, at 2:27 p.m., Olivia stood up, took Brandon's hand, and led him toward the hallway. My pulse quickened. Tyler followed, closing the distance between them as they entered the bedroom. This time, I would see everything. I switched to the bedroom feed, and my breath caught in my throat. The moment the door shut behind them, Olivia turned to Brandon with a look that sent a chill down my spine, pure desire. She reached for him first, her hands running down his chest as she pulled him in for a deep kiss. Tyler smirked, watching them as if this were all part of a well-rehearsed performance. He stepped closer, placing a hand on Olivia's waist before leaning in to kiss her exposed neck. My stomach twisted. She wasn't hesitating. She wasn't caught off guard. She wasn't being coerced. She was enjoying it. More than that, she was fully indulging in it. Her hands moved greedily between them, switching between Brandon and Tyler, touching them with an eagerness that made my entire body go numb. She laughed softly, tilting her head back as Tyler whispered something in her ear. Brandon's hands roamed down her back, holding her in place as if she belonged to him. Olivia responded by pressing herself against him while reaching out for Tyler, pulling him closer as well. I wanted to stop watching. I wanted to look away. But I couldn't. This was no accident. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was premeditated, intentional, and utterly depraved. Olivia's expression was what sent me over the edge. It wasn't guilt, or hesitation, or even excitement, it was satisfaction. Her eyes gleamed with pleasure. Her lips parted in breathless amusement as she toyed with them both, completely immersed in their attention. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional, it was psychological, it was complete. The woman I had loved, the woman I had believed in, was someone I didn't even recognize anymore. Minutes passed, each second a knife twisting deeper into my gut. Then, at exactly 3:11 p.m., Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers through her tousled hair, laughing softly. Brandon zipped up his jeans with an air of satisfaction, while Tyler stretched like he had just woken up from a nap. No guilt. No shame. Just another afternoon in my house, on my bed. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. I shut the laptop with a forceful slam, but the images wouldn't leave my mind. My breathing was ragged. My body trembling with a mixture of rage and disgust. I had suspected betrayal, but I hadn't been prepared for this level of shameless deceit. I clenched my fists, my jaw tightening. If they thought they had won, if they thought they could humiliate me and walk away unscathed, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. This wasn't over. The rage inside me was no longer just a fleeting emotion, it had transformed into something sharper, something colder. I no longer acted out of impulse. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to break things. I wasn't even going to confront them in a fit of rage. No, they didn't deserve that. They deserved something far worse. I spent the next few days meticulously planning every detail. Revenge wasn't just about getting back at them, it was about ensuring that their world crumbled beneath them. Just as they had destroyed mine. I would take everything from them. I knew that my single recording was already damning, but I wanted more. I wanted irrefutable proof that no excuse, no lie, no fabricated story could undo. So, I let things play out as if I knew nothing. I smiled at Olivia. I laughed at Brandon's jokes. I even grabbed a beer with Tyler. Pretending like everything was normal. It disgusted me to be in the same room as them, but I needed them to believe they were safe. That nothing had changed. In reality, I had already upgraded my security setup. Audio recordings, additional camera angles, timestamps that linked everything together. Every kiss, every whispered word, every betrayal, I captured it all. The deeper I dug, the worse it became. Olivia wasn't just betraying me physically. She loved the thrill of it. The sneaking around. The deceit. Brandon and Tyler were nothing more than two pieces of entertainment for her, and she used them as eagerly as they used her. They were all complicit. Brandon and Tyler had built their small business over the years. A fast food stand that, while insignificant to me, was everything to them. It was their sole source of income, their pride and joy. They had put years of effort into keeping it running, barely breaking even most months. It wouldn't take much to ruin it. Using a fake account, I began planting false reviews about their stand. Health violations, bad service, rumors that they were selling tainted meat. At first, the reviews were subtle, but then they escalated. Customers stopped coming. City inspectors started showing up. Responding to anonymous complaints. In just 3 weeks, their business was on the verge of collapse. Their financial struggles worsened, forcing them to scramble. Borrowing money just to keep the doors open. And I wasn't done yet. Olivia had built her public image carefully. She was a rising influencer, gathering followers with her wholesome brand, fitness, travel, lifestyle. People saw her as an inspiration, a role model. They had no idea what kind of person she truly was. I created a website. A simple, anonymous site that exposed everything. Pictures, videos, recordings, all curated to show the truth about her. I timed it perfectly. I waited until she had landed a major sponsorship deal with a well-known company. Then, I sent the link to every major platform, every gossip forum, every contact in her professional circle. Within hours, the scandal exploded. The comments flooded in, her follower count plummeted. And the brand deals vanished. She tried to deny it at first, calling it fabricated lies, but the evidence was too overwhelming. Even her closest supporters couldn't defend her. She lost everything overnight. With their careers in ruins, I prepared the final blow. One evening, I casually invited Olivia, Brandon, and Tyler to dinner. They had no idea what was coming. The moment they walked into the restaurant, a USB drive was slid across the table toward Olivia. "What's this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Take a look." Her fingers trembled slightly as she plugged the drive into her laptop. The second the files opened, the color drained from her face. Brandon and Tyler leaned in. Confusion turning into sheer horror as they saw every recorded moment of their betrayal, captured from multiple angles, complete with audio. "This," Olivia whispered, her voice barely audible. "You." "Oh, I've known for weeks," I interrupted, leaning back in my chair. "I just wanted you all to experience what true humiliation feels like." Brandon shot up from his seat, rage flashing in his eyes. "You set us up, you." I chuckled darkly. "I didn't make you do anything. You did this to yourselves. I just made sure the world knew who you really are." Olivia looked like she was about to throw up. Tyler's hands were shaking. Everything they had built, everything they thought they had control over, was gone. And I wasn't even finished. I stood up, throwing a thick legal document onto the table. "That's my divorce agreement, Olivia. Consider it signed." She gasped, frantically flipping through the pages. I had ensured that she got nothing. No settlement, no assets. Nothing. "I'll see you all in hell," I said, walking away. They called after me, begged, threatened. It didn't matter. I had won. As I stepped out into the cool night air, a sense of peace washed over me. The revenge was complete. And it was absolutely delicious. As I walked away from that restaurant, leaving Olivia, Brandon, and Tyler in stunned silence, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming my own life. But their suffering? That was just beginning. Olivia, the rise and fall of a role model. The fallout from the scandal was swift and brutal. Olivia had built her career on being a social media influencer, fitness, lifestyle, travel. She preached self-improvement and loyalty, selling an image of perfection to her thousands of followers. But when the truth came out, that carefully crafted image shattered overnight. The website exposing her betrayal spread like wildfire. Screenshots, videos, audio recordings, all meticulously documented, circulated across every platform. The internet never forgets. And neither do people. At first, Olivia tried to deny everything. She released a tearful apology video, claiming it was all taken out of context. That I was a vindictive ex, trying to destroy her life. But the evidence was too overwhelming. Every lie she told was quickly debunked by the irrefutable proof I had leaked. Brand deals? Cancelled. Sponsors? Gone. Followers? Vanishing by the thousands. Her once loyal fanbase turned on her, flooding her social media with insults and ridicule. She was no longer an influencer, she was a meme. A joke. The very image she had worked so hard to cultivate was now a symbol of deceit and humiliation. Desperate for money, Olivia tried to pivot her content, posting risque photos, hinting at launching an OnlyFans. But even there, her reputation preceded her. No one wanted to support someone they had lost all respect for. The industry she once thrived in had chewed her up and spit her out. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had moved out of the city, trying to escape the public eye. But no matter where she went, the internet always remembered. Olivia had lost everything. Brandon, the businessman turned beggar. Brandon had always prided himself on being self-made. His food stand was his identity, his only real success after a lifetime of failed ventures. But what happens when the only thing keeping you afloat is suddenly ripped away? The wave of negative reviews I had orchestrated was just the beginning. Health inspectors, media scrutiny, and a sudden drop in customers crippled his already struggling business. With no money coming in and mounting debts, his food stand shut down within a month. With his reputation ruined, no one in the industry wanted to hire him. He tried opening a new business under a different name, but the internet was relentless. Someone always recognized him. Every new attempt was shut down before it even started. I ran into him once. Purely by accident. He looked haggard, thinner, exhausted. He barely recognized me. The confidence, the arrogance that once defined him, was gone. He mumbled something about just needing a break. But we both knew the truth. He had lost everything, and there was no coming back. Tyler, from cocky to convict. Tyler was the kind of guy who always talked big but never actually accomplished anything. Unlike Brandon. He didn't have a business, he just mooched off other people's success. When Brandon's business collapsed, so did his free ride. With no job and no savings, Tyler turned to shady money-making schemes. He started gambling, borrowing from people he shouldn't have. But when those debts piled up, and he couldn't pay them back, things got dangerous. One day, he made a critical mistake. He tried running a credit card scam. He thought he was smart enough to get away with it. He wasn't. The authorities caught him within weeks. The evidence was damning. And with no money for a good lawyer, he had no way out. He was sentenced to prison for fraud and theft. No more cocky smirks, no more playing the tough guy. Just another inmate in an orange jumpsuit. Serving a well-deserved punishment. And me? I moved on. While they drowned in the consequences of their own actions, I thrived. I finalized my divorce from Olivia. Ensuring she got nothing, not a single cent. My finances remained untouched, my dignity intact. I was free. With all the toxicity purged from my life, I left the city. I moved somewhere new. Somewhere fresh. I focused on my career, my hobbies, and most importantly, myself. The past no longer defined me. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't just the guy who got betrayed. I was someone who took back control, who refused to let betrayal break him. And as I sat in my new home, sipping my coffee in peace, I realized something. Revenge wasn't about making them suffer. It was about making sure they could never hurt me again. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The weight of betrayal, the anger, the need for revenge, it was all behind me now. I had let go, not because I forgave them, but because they no longer mattered. Their lives were in ruins, their choices had led them to where they were. But me? I was just getting started. I moved to a new city, one where no one knew my past. I found a place that overlooked the ocean, where the air was fresh, and the nights were peaceful. I poured my energy into my career, taking on projects that excited me. Surrounding myself with people who inspired me. I traveled, saw places I had only dreamed of before, and most importantly, I learned to enjoy my own company again. There were moments of reflection. Times when I looked back and wondered how I had let myself be blind to the truth for so long. But I didn't dwell on it. The past had shaped me, but it didn't define me. What mattered now was the future, the life I was building for myself, free from toxicity and deceit. One evening, as I watched the sunset from my balcony, I realized something profound. Happiness isn't about erasing the past. It's about creating a future so fulfilling that the past loses its power over you. And that's exactly what I intended to do. What do you think? Did I do the right thing? Or should I have handled it differently? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.